Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bestowal Talks, your go-to podcast for insightful conversations on SAP, supply chain planning, business transformation, and real-world implementation strategies. I'm your host, and today we're unpacking a topic that may seem niche, but plays a critical role in planning accuracy and operational excellence. Additional parameters in SAP IBP S&OP operator profiles. If you're a planner, consultant, or business leader looking to sharpen your understanding of how small configuration changes can reshape planning outcomes, then you're in the right place. So, let's jump right in and start demystifying these parameters and their real-world impact. Hi Akshay, excited to be here. This topic sounds technical, but also super important. So, let's break it down for our listeners. What are additional parameters?
Absolutely. In SAP IBP, S&OP operator profiles already define how planning runs behave, but additional parameters allow planners to fine-tune the logic even further. Things like how adjusted key figures are treated, how network cycles are handled, or how lead times are rounded.
So basically, these parameters give planners more control beyond standard settings?
Exactly. They help tailor the planning run to real-world business scenarios instead of relying on one-size-fits-all logic.
Let's start with adjusted key figures. I've heard terms like apply, reset, and ignore. What do they actually mean?
Good question. This is controlled by the parameter adjusted key figures handling policy. Apply means the system fully considers adjusted key figures during planning. Reset clears all adjusted key figures before the planning run starts. Ignore skips them during planning but keeps the data intact in the database. Each option fits a different planning scenario, depending on whether you trust or want to temporarily bypass manual adjustments.
So, reset is kind of like starting fresh, right?
Exactly. Clean slate planning.
Where do we see this in real business?
Imagine a consumer goods company during festival season. The demand planner manually increases demand for Diwali based on market intelligence. These changes are stored as adjusted key figures. Now, if the supply planner runs S&OP with apply, the system respects those Diwali demand adjustments and creates additional supply. If they use reset, all those manual overrides are wiped out. Useful if leadership decides to redo planning from scratch. With ignore, the adjustments stay in the system but don't influence the current planning run. Great for scenario simulations.
So, apply is for trusting business inputs. Reset is for fresh planning, and ignore is perfect for what-if analysis.
Exactly. That's how planners use it in real life.
Now, cycles in supply networks? This sounds scary.
It can be. Cycles happen when products flow in loops across locations. By default, the heuristic stops with an error if it detects one. But with network cycle handling policy, you can decide how strict the system should be.
And the options?
The default is stop at cycle. Alternatively, Tolerant allows the heuristic to continue by temporarily disabling problematic sources and issuing warnings instead of errors. But note, it only works for multi-level cycles, not direct cycles.
Can you elaborate? Where do they show up practically?
Very common in interplant manufacturing networks. Let's say, plant A supplies semi-finished goods to plant B. Plant B, after final processing, sends some quantity back to plant A. This creates a multi-level cycle. By default, SAP IBP will stop planning and throw an error. But if business accepts this structure, planners set network cycle handling policy equal to Tolerant.
And what happens then?
The system temporarily disables one of the supply paths, completes planning, and gives a warning instead of failing the run. This is critical in large manufacturing networks where cycles are sometimes unavoidable.
What happens when a source of supply becomes invalid?
That's where validity ratio adaptation policy comes in. Distribute reallocates the quota of invalid sources proportionally to valid ones. Ignore simply drops the invalid quotas without redistribution. This choice can significantly impact sourcing results.
Where does this matter?
Think about a pharmaceutical company sourcing raw materials from 3 vendors. Suddenly, one vendor's contract expires. With Distribute, the quota of the expired vendor is automatically redistributed across the remaining 2 suppliers. With Ignore, that quota is simply dropped, which may cause shortages.
So, Distribute supports continuity, while Ignore enforces stricter sourcing discipline.
Exactly. Most businesses prefer Distribute unless they want planners to manually intervene.
Lead time rounding always causes confusion. How do additional parameters help?
They let you control how aggressively lead times are rounded when converting from days to weeks or months. Parameters like lead time rounding threshold production source define the percentage at which rounding happens. For example, with a threshold of 0.2, even 2 days can round up to 1 week. With 0.5, you need at least 4 days. And with 0, no rounding at all.
That's powerful and risky if misunderstood.
Exactly why it's important to configure carefully.
Lead time rounding always causes confusion. Can you give a simple example?
Sure. Imagine a retail company where transportation lead time from warehouse to store is 2 days. With a rounding threshold of 0.5, 2 days won't round up to a full week. With a threshold of 0.2, the same 2 days will round up to 1 week. This directly impacts when stock appears available, affecting service levels and inventory buffers.
So, a small configuration change can shift supply by an entire week.
Exactly. And that's why this parameter is so powerful.
One last topic, freeze horizons. What's new here?
With freeze horizon policy equal to extend horizon, the system considers non-working days from calendars when calculating freeze horizons. This gives a more realistic planning freeze, especially in regions with many holidays.
Freeze horizons sound abstract. How do planners experience this?
Picture a manufacturing plant in India with multiple public holidays. If freeze horizon is set to 2 weeks, without calendar consideration, IBP assumes 14 working days. With freeze horizon policy equal to extend horizon, IBP adds non-working days, so planners don't accidentally change production plans during holidays.
That's huge for execution stability.
Absolutely. It prevents last-minute changes that the factory can't realistically execute.
So today's big message is, these additional parameters aren't just technical switches. They directly reflect how a business actually operates.
Exactly. When configured correctly, they align SAP IBP planning with real-world constraints, human decisions, and operational realities.
Thanks, Akshay. This was super insightful. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. As we've seen, additional parameters in SAP IBP are not just technical settings. They're powerful levers that allow businesses to fine-tune planning runs, align with real-world scenarios, manage exceptions, and improve decision-making. If you found this discussion valuable and want more episodes on practical SAP IBP insights, be sure to subscribe to the Bestowal Talks. Our expert consultants at Bestowal Systems and Services are always ready to help you implement SAP IBP solutions tailored to your business needs, whether it's S&OP, demand, supply, or integration. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, stay curious, keep planning smart, and we'll see you in the next episode.